The saga continues. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time yet again. Time for another segmented, brilliant lecture with your professor of Native American literature here at Sisseton, Wahpeton College. And now the man himself, the brilliant Professor Victor Singingeagle. Yay! Right on, right on, right on. All right. You ready to get started? Actually, we're continuing from the previous lecture. I'm going to see if I can make this more timeless so we can use it in future lectures and future semesters. But we are going to discuss, we already talked about the necessary savage. There's another video that's about Don Dumont in our book, the book is called Read, Listen, Tell, page 14. The story is called The Way of the Sword. So we're jumping down to item 5, which I previewed in my previous discussion. We were talking about the similarities between ancient indigenous Americas and Asia. Let me pull it up and show you what I'm talking about. If you remember, I was really beating the gong about this, where I was talking about how in the Americas, not just down here in Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula and the Gulf of Mexico, the ancient Mayans and the Aztecs and the Incans all hung out down here. Not the Incans are way down here. But they had all these awesome pyramids and stuff. I'm going to mess with you some more just for a second. I didn't open up this window and plan on it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Here we go. Let's do mounds of the Americas. Whatever. We're going to call them mounds. There we go. The Mississippi River Valley. If you go upstairs to the indigenous language sections, Cahokia Mound, you're going to have a look at, let's pull up Google Maps for a sec. You always see videos and articles about all these wonderful brown pyramids built by the Incans and the Aztecs, but you don't hear a whole lot about how these guys also, all the way from down here, all the way up, and those mounds, they're also pyramids and beautiful cities and plazas. We talked about this before. You can go, this is a Wikipedia article, and I'm already starting to spin my wheels. Let me see if we can find some good images. Wow, see? Mounds, and there's the serpent mound. No, I don't want to do that. Stop it! Okay, go back. There's a wonderful, it says lost civilizations. You can see the plaza that I was talking about before. The cities, there's a wonderful cityscape there, or I should say village. So again, our people up here in North America, primarily the US of A and all the way to southern Canada, also built pyramids. And a lot of it is covered in grass, like I said before. So how am I getting on this subject, and what the heck does it have to do with literature? Bear with me. Let's go back to this. I Googled and found the Met Museum, and I wanted to find Olmec jade. Olmec is a civilization which is also south of the border. Let's zoom out for a second. They were down here in Mexico too, and those are the oldest of the old pyramid builders down there. But you also find these jade artifacts in the US as well, but primarily it's more famous down in Mexico. This is an Olmec face mask carving out of jade. And look at the eyes. It looks really Asian, doesn't it? And we keep scrolling, look at all this wonderful ritual objects. Some of it is Mayan as well. There's a claw there.
some kind of bowl ornament or maybe ear ornament. That looks like Mayan. Yes, it says Mayan right there. Neato. So let's keep scrolling. Mask Olmec. There's more Olmec. And if you just go to the metmuseum.org and look up some of this stuff, you'll see what I'm talking about. Look at that. Wow. I want to not scroll, but keep rolling, keep rolling. Mayans. I'm not sure if those are scrapers. It says it's a Celt. I don't know what that Celt is. But the more you go through this, the more you start finding stuff that looks really, really Asian. The reason why I'm messing with you about this is because if you talk to some archaeologists from China, they'll look at that stuff and say, "Oh, this isn't native. This is Chinese." And this is something that had been commented on since the 19th century. This idea that these motifs such as masks and serpents and beautiful jade figurines and hand tools. The Chinese think that they've got jade all figured out, and jade is a Chinese thing. But the natives also, we traditionally have jade carvings as well. A lot of it, of course, has been lost to time and lost to farmers digging the stuff up and hiding it in their treasure chest at home or whatever. I don't want to stand up here and get all yakety yak about it. But the main thing is we've got a lot of cultural similarities. If you listen to Singingeagle, we start rolling it over to our stories as well. We have stories about rabbits on the moon here in the Americas, as do they have in China. Let's see if I can find you a wonderful picture of a rabbit on the moon to show you what I'm talking about. Hopefully it'll pull right up. Rabbit. Oops, wrong keyboard. Rabbit. Oh, slow down. Fat fingers. Boom. Moon rabbit, also called jade rabbit in Chinese culture. If we want to look and scroll, there's a picture. A lot of times, if you speak to many natives, I like this one. That's a good one. Let's make it big. Big! We can actually see the rabbit on the moon. I remember way, way back as a little child. I don't like that rabbit. I like my rabbit better, but we'll get into it. My grandmother was telling rabbit stories and how the rabbit got on the moon. And originally, in elementary and kindergarten, they said, "Oh, look at the man in the moon." And I used to look and say, "Oh, yeah, I can see the man's smiling face and all that." But then when my grandmother told me the rabbit in the moon story, and she pointed it out, not like that, but the rabbit's ear is here, and his feet are there, and his tail, and for some reason this website is messing it up. That's not the rabbit we see. Ours, let's go back. I don't like that. GIF or GIF or whatever it's called. Let's do, no, not that one. There's another one. Let's try this one. E2. Make it bigger. E2. No, not that one either. Well, I'm going to stand up here and just waste all too much time. I'll just put a graphic up for you. There it is. I like this one. Let's do this one. This one, you can see the rabbit a little better. This is when my grandmother was telling me the story. This is what I saw. You could see the ear. There's the little eye, his little nose, his little feet, and like that. Anyway, so natives and Chinese have a story about how the rabbit got up there. Their story is a little different from ours. We'll get into it later. I'll make some separate videos about it, but I want to focus on this idea. There's also a story of a maiden on the moon and how she got up there. My tribe, in particular, has a story about how she got up there that is very close to the Chinese story. And it has to deal with these hero twins Hunahu and Habalenke. My tribe, we call them Wena and Wishka. And I believe the Navajo have another different name for them. And then this character called Nejia in Chinese. We'll get into it in a separate video. However, if you hear old man Singingeagle tell the story, there's a debate, you see, between since the 19th century, anthropologists and folklorists have been debating about this. Well, how did these stories get all the way from China to the indigenous Americas? One side says diffusion. And this is the central definition of diffusion for our purposes as native literature students would be somehow there was contact that we don't know about. This is what personally I like to argue, is that way back in ancient times before the Chmokmanuk hit the scene, we human beings over here traveled just like we do today, but it just took longer, and we had trade routes, established trade routes throughout the Americas, which is why you can oftentimes find shell beads and beautiful shell artwork all the way from California, like the Jokong. How do you say that in English? Abalone. What are the abalone shells doing way over in the desert southwest and way over in the Iroquois area when they're from those giant red abalone shells which come from California? Well, there was a established trade route going on. And along with the trade, also we traded our stories. And I believe this trade route stretched all the way over across the Bering Strait and maybe across the Pacific as well. That's just my own personal belief. And intermarriage as well, but we won't get into all that because I'm going to stand up here and talk too much. The other side argues, no, it's an independent invention, that the two sides, the Americas and China, completely came up with this stuff independent of each other, and somehow, what a coincidence, they see a rabbit in the moon and so do we. Oh, coinky dinky. What you decide what you want to believe. Let's look at it some more. So they've been debating this since the 19th century, remarking that humans create similar myths because we face similar experiences of nature or life. But native writers often teach us that stories belong to everyone. And when they echo across cultures, it's a sign of our shared humanity. Oh, isn't that beautiful? And our interconnectedness with Mother Earth. Momaday, that is N. Scott Momaday, the late N. Scott Momaday, Kiowa, he wrote about it in, I believe it's a poem, not a book. I could be wrong. It might be a book called The Remembered Earth. I'll have to go back now. I'm drawing a blank. Something's wrong with my brain today. My late friend, Gunn Allen, who is Laguna, she wrote a book called The Sacred Hoop. And she's got a bunch of woman stories. And she says the same thing, similar, this idea that women were sharing, because she's taking a feminist perspective. Remember that. Feminist perspective, Gunn Allen, she said that the women were sharing the stories, and when people were intermarrying, they often had a patrilocal marriage. Patrilocal means the wife leaves everything, leaves her tribe, and moves in with the husband and follows him around. That's patrilocal. Matrilocal is where the man drops everything and moves in with a woman's side. That's matrilocal. The other's patrilocal. Don't worry, I'm not going to bother you with that on a test because that's anthropology stuff. But again, there is an intersection, as my dear friend Gunn Allen used to say, between anthropology and literature. So, you know, Singingeagle's going to have to bother you with it. Last one is Leslie Marmon Silko, my wonderful fellow ADHD enjoyer. She has something called Storyteller. I believe it's an essay she wrote. And she talks about the flowing and never truly ending or unendingness of myth and story and the power of stories. She doesn't so much take a feminist perspective as her cousin Paula Gunn Allen does, but she does believe in the power of stories and how they transcend boundaries, and we trade things just as much as we trade stories. So, that's the main thing I wanted to share with you, and again, reminding you of some of our vocabulary words. Here you go. Etiology, the attribution of the cause or reason for something, often expressed in mythical auric traditions, such as why a possum has no hair on his tail, or why hummingbird is colorful, or why is raven black. You should see those videos. I have them posted on e-learning. We talked about the howling savage. This is the third time. What's the difference? That's where non-natives portray us as violent, primitive obstacles to civilization, existing only as threats to settlers. The noble savage. This is where we're like magical, mystical spirit guides, and of course we're doomed, and we're going to sacrifice ourselves eventually. I forgot to close my parenthesis there. But we're idealized in the past, where we have some sacred knowledge that we have to share with the people who have conquered us. And then, of course, is related to that is the vanishing savage. And this is this idea that we are tragic and doomed, disappearing people, and we're destined to fade off into the sunset. So that's the main stuff I'm going to bother you with today. Again, I thank you for your patience with me as I stand up here and make a fool out of myself. But keep in mind, I'm going to be posting some more videos, and as soon as you see on e-learning, it's not going to work, is it? Of course not. As soon as you see Pop Quiz A on e-learning with the Incredible Hulk and Spider-Man, jump on it, all right? Thank you so much, and have a nice day. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. I bet it's 20 minutes.
17 minutes and 23 seconds.